Oh yeah, I know you guys tuned in to watch me take a drink of this delicious Fuji Apple sparkling water. Not. Welcome to the Sunday sermon with Mike, your mentor. I gotta be real with you guys. Tonight's message is pretty timely. We talking to myself tonight because I'm in the battle, man. I am in the battle. But before we get to that, thanks for tuning in. If you're watching the replay, thank you. I really believe that what God is having me doing here is changing the lives of men. It's making a difference. Because there's no mentorship out there, right? Well, there's not a lot of mentorship. I should say it that way. I take that back. And the mentorship that's out there, not a lot of it is that good for a bunch of different reasons. A lot of it comes from, I'm not going to go into that. I'm just going to shut up. The point of this page is there's many. I got a headache. I'm sorry. I can't even focus because it's just freaking crazy. If you don't know me, my name is Mike King, and I had a crazy childhood and a dysfunctional teenage life and a challenging decade in my 20s. Some of it was my own fault. Some of it was just the stuff life throws at you. But nonetheless, I learned a lot of lessons, and two things got me through. Two main things. The grace of God and the mentors that I had in my life. When I was young, it was in books. I used to read lots of books about people, biographies, short stories, about people who overcame tremendous odds to have a better life, to do something, right? To make that choice that we all have, to not sit back and wallow and be a victim, but to push on harder and higher. And then I had mentors in my real life as I got older, men that were strategically placed in my life that planted seeds in me at just the right time. I don't consider it coincidence. That kept me from going down a dark path, and one that probably would have ended up with me taking my own life. My dad was in and out of jail numerous times in my teenage years. He came back in what I thought was finally going to be a dream come true as a little boy. I always dreamed for my dad to be there, to see me play basketball, to see me play football, to see me run track, to see me play baseball, to do all the things boys do with their dads. It was short-lived. Lasted a couple of weeks and blew up in a episode where my dad got high and came back to the house and had his shirt off in the front yard and was screaming and yelling at my mom, and she had no choice but to call the police because he started to get violent and threw a rock through the front window of the door. And what do you do when you're 15 and you're watching all this unfold? What did I do? I blame my mom. Because that was easy. It was her fault. It was her fault my dad didn't want to be there. It's her fault my dad didn't want nothing to do with me and my brother and my sister. It's her fault he couldn't keep his promises. It's her fault he didn't know how to be a man. And then that started this cycle of every 2 years of him coming back into my life and making the same old promises again. I'm going to be there. I'm going to help you. I'm going to help your brother. I'm going to help your sister. I'm going to be a good dad. I wanted to believe him. I really did. But then just as fast as he'd come into our life, he'd disappear twice as fast back into the wind. I really thought it would change when my brother committed suicide when I was a sophomore in college. I finally thought that maybe that was the straw that broke the camel's back. And he'd finally have a breakthrough. And he'd finally realize all the stuff that he'd missed out on. But it didn't. I think it just drove him away even more. Made him feel more guilty. Made him carry more shame. And that sucks, for him and for us. And then the final hoorah was my college graduation, where I got a phone call from him. And he said, "Hey son, I'm proud of you. You're going to be the first person in our family to graduate from college. What an accomplishment. And I'm going to be there. But when I'm there, when you see me, don't be scared." I'm like, hold on, what do you mean don't be scared? Like, that's not a normal thing to say to a person. Come to find out, my dad had stage 4 liver cancer from all the drugs and abuse that he had done his entire life. And the doctors didn't know how long he'd live. He was optimistic, he was trying to hold it together. Graduation came and went, he wasn't there. Get another phone call. He's over at my godfather's house, which I met my godfather like once, maybe twice before in my life. Some godfather. So I go over there and I see him. And he don't look nothing like I remember. People always tell me I got this baby face, or I don't look as old as I am. Right? I'm 38 years old. I get that from my dad, because he never looked as old as he was. He always looked 10, maybe 20 years younger than what he was physically. I mean, he was a solid, stout brick house of a guy. Now I come to my godfather's house and I see him, and his face is sagging, or his skin is sagging off his face. His eyes are sunk in his head. Yeah, Charles, 38, believe it or not. And he's dying. It's clear as day he's dying. And we talk for 20 minutes or so, and he tells me he loves me, and that's maybe another story for another time. I mean, it doesn't have any impact on me, because everything we've been through. I mean, I humor him, and I tell him I love him, but those words have no weight on me, like water off a duck's back. And then he's got to go lay down because he's tired from the chemo and all the other stuff that I guess he was doing to try to stay alive. And I go back to my life. The life I've only ever known. The life without my dad. And a couple of months later, he dies. I think it was even a couple of weeks, actually. And I got to go to his funeral and deal with all that, which I've talked before about on this channel. So that's why I do this. Because we all go through crazy stuff, and it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when life is going to throw a freaking wrecking ball at you. And if you're not prepared, you don't have the right influences in your life, you're not reading the right things, you're not watching the right things, you're not listening to the right things, when the enemy comes to destroy your life, you're going to make it just that much easier for him. And my dad dying was the culmination of all those things that had happened to me in my childhood and my teenage years, and then now into my 20s at 23 years old. And I don't know how I would have dealt with all that anger, all the frustration, all the hopelessness, all the regret of him not teaching me anything. Right? What do we teach our sons as fathers? The only thing I can remember my dad wanting to teach me about how to be a man was he said he was going to take me to a brothel when I turned 21. I was 16 years old at the time. And he was going to show me what being a man was all about. Really? I mean, really? And don't get me wrong, like now that I'm older and I'm wiser, I get it. Like hurt people, and you can only give what you got. But you tuning into this channel and listening to me and these rants and these teachings, I guess, that I'm doing, is exposing yourself to stuff that maybe you've never thought about, and stuff that you can take and put inside yourself, that just like it was put inside me, to make not only your life better, but to be a better husband, to be a better father, to be a better member of the community. Because it's just crazy outside with everything that's going on in this world. And it's a direct reflection of the lack of responsibility that men have taken for I don't know how many years. It's just been building up slowly. And the buildup has been so slow, we haven't been paying attention, and now we're about to go off the cliff. And God is doing something with men. He is waking men up. He's slapping them across the face. He's grabbing them by the shoulders. He's changing their perspectives. And I believe that this is only the beginning, but it's only going to be for those that are passionate and serious about becoming better men, and that see it for what it is. It's our responsibility. It's my responsibility. It's your responsibility. It's not your responsibility for me, and it's not my responsibility for you. It's our responsibility for ourselves, first and foremost. Alright. Before I get crazy here, you don't want to see me go crazy. It's been a long time since I've been crazy. I'm not going to go there tonight. But tonight we're going to go into the Sunday sermon. I pretty much shared my life with you guys. I've tried to be extremely vulnerable, truthful, answer people's questions, talk about stuff that maybe the old me never would have talked about. I would have hid. I would have wore the mask. I would have played the game, been the poser. Everything's cool. My life is perfect. Blah, 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 blah. There's no freedom in that, man. It doesn't do anybody any good long term. And I'm past all that stuff. I'm like everybody else. I mess up all the time. Just recently messed up. But you know what? What separates me from a lot of people is that I'm at least going to go down trying to do something about it. Oh, thanks, Aurelia. Appreciate that. Appreciate you tuning in. So the way the Sunday sermon's going to go from now on is, when I was planning all the, or I shouldn't say when God was giving me all this stuff to plan out, like I would go through my life, and then after that, He was just giving me these lessons to share. So tonight is going to be the first one of those lessons, and then that's how it's going to progress for the rest of the year on the Sunday sermon. So I encourage you to bust out your phone, bust out the old pen and paper, take a couple notes, and let God speak to you however He's going to speak to you with what He wants me to share. So, here we go. Alright, Sunday Sermon, episode 21. Wow, 21 weeks. Round of applause. Going strong. I'm here, you're here. We're going to keep going. Man, that's almost halfway. Wow, time is flying. And this is entitled Tough Times, and this screenshot is from a movie called Unbroken. And I don't know, people have different opinions about this movie, but I felt that this movie did not even live up to the book. Obviously, you can only have so much time in a movie to tell a story. And if you don't know what Unbroken is, it was a book written by Lauren Hillenbrand, and it was written about, what is the guy's name? Louis Zamperini, I think. I can't think today. But Louis' story is incredible, right? So I'm going to give you try to be brief about his life. Because, You think I went through some crazy stuff? This dude went through some crazy stuff. So he grows up, gets drafted into the war, or before he even gets drafted into the war, he's kind of a rebel, wild child. Then he gets into track, and he becomes one of the first people to run the fastest mile ever. Just becomes a phenomenal athlete. I think he has one of those addictive type personalities where he just gives it everything to one thing, his all. And then, before he's going to go to the Olympics, he gets drafted into the war. And then in the war, he is a bomber pilot. So he flies all these successful missions, has one of the longest records for successful missions. And then he's going out on his last mission. It's always the last mission, right? Like, life has this crazy irony about it. He's out on his last mission. Their plane goes down. And he's stuck. They're in the ocean, and they're floating, waiting to be rescued. So as they're floating, waiting to be rescued, not only do sharks try to eat them, like sharks literally like to figure out that they're in the boat, swim underneath up the raft, bonk him and his three co-pilots out of the raft. So then they gotta scramble to get back in the raft. So not only that happens, but they see a plane coming in the distance. They shoot a flare off. The plane gets closer. Turns out it's a Japanese fighter pilot. So it starts shooting at them, rips a bunch of holes in the boat. So they got to jump out of the boat into shark-infested water, wait for this plane to give up and think that they're dead, and then get back into the deflated raft. And three of them spend all day, they rotate with three blowing in the raft to keep air in it while one person tries to take the sew kit and patch the raft up. And this is a real story. And I think he still has the longest record for time survived at sea. I think it was 45 days if I'm remembering correctly. I mean, they're catching these fish, they're eating these seagulls. I mean, they're doing whatever they can to stay alive. One of their partners gives up and says he can't do it anymore and rolls over the side of the boat and shark bait, right? Like, he's done. Finally, they float. They get grounded, right? They float to land or whatever. The current pulls them into land, right? You think that the worst of the worst is over. No, they end up in a Japanese POW camp because that's where they landed. So now they're prisoners of war. So not only are they prisoners of war, but Louis somehow catches the eye of the camp leader and proceeds for the next, I think it's like year and a half, to take the blunt of the physical, the mental, and the emotional abuse that these POWs take, where he's, beaten several times within inches of his life. And then after a year and a half, that guy gets transferred out of there. And then as the war continues to go on, after a couple of months, Louis gets transferred to a new camp. And lo and behold, when he goes to the new camp, who does he see? This same colonel there, who picks it all up again. Right? Then the war ends, POWs are set free. Louis gets to go back to what he thinks is going to be a normal life, but now he's got to carry all the thoughts, the memories, the emotions, the depression, all that stuff back to him and try to lead a normal life. He gets married, tries to do that, have kids, becomes an alcoholic, because he can't get this stuff out of his mind, dealing with all this stuff. And then something happens in his life. He meets God. And God tells him to go track down this colonel who terrorized him in these POW camps. Right? Like, what? Excuse me, God? Like, are you kidding me? So then he spends his time going around Japan trying to find this colonel. And I won't spoil the rest of the story. If you want to get the book, I recommend the book far more than the movie. I mean, I read the book, I couldn't put the thing down. It's first major novel I ever read, or whatever it would be called. It's a true story. that thick. I think it was like 400, 500 pages. But I mean, I would literally jump into bed every night, like go to bed early just to read this thing. All right, so that's Louis' story. That's what this picture is about, and what it represents is right tough times. I mean, we all got to deal with them. So, how do we deal with tough times? Like, and we'll see, I guess, what God had to remind me of. Be right back. 1 second. Sorry about that. Cooking pizza for the kids again. That 20 minutes went by fast. All right, so first thing, tough times can teach us patience. It's part of the refiner's fire. I talked about the refiner's fire, I think it was last week on the Sunday sermon, right? And the refiner's fire is this process that we go through in life, or it's, I guess, a metaphor for this process that we go through in life, where we're refined, right? Just like gold is put into a hot fire so that the impurities can rise to the top, and then the gold maker can pull it out and scrape it off and then put the gold back in to repeat this process, 4 to 5 times before you have pure gold, right? That's part of the process that we go through with tough times. Like those tough times, they're there to teach us stuff. I'm not here to debate whether that's fair or not. I'm just here to say that that's reality. You live life long enough, you're going to deal with some tough times. But that can teach you a lot of things, and one of the things is teach you patience. It's interesting how life works, right? You can't know what love is if you don't ever experience the inverse. You don't know what, I don't know, you don't know what patience is if you don't ever experience not having patience. You don't know if something, what sweet and savory tastes like if you don't ever taste anything that's bitter, right? Like you got to experience both sides of the coin to be able to understand what things are like. And that's what tough times can do for us, right? It can expose us to that other side of the coin, so that we can then, realize just what that other side is and was about. Another thing about tough times is we can't know the depth of our character until we see how we react under pressure. When I think of pressure, I think of diamonds, right? You got these coals that through well, not today because they can make real replica diamonds or real diamonds faster than what nature can, but I think of coal, and under the immense amount of pressure that a piece of coal goes under to make a diamond, a natural diamond, right? And then you got the stone cutter who takes that diamond and he polishes that up, and he cuts it with all the different angles and makes it sparkle. Pressure does the same thing to us, right? We're this piece of coal that's always being refined, and that pressure comes along, and it's it shows you who you really are, right? It shows you where your strong spots are. It shows you where your weak spots are. And then if we're smart, if we're wise enough, we learn the lesson from that tough time, and hopefully we don't have to repeat it another way in the future. But we don't know what we're made of until we go through tough times. I mean, everyone likes to talk tough. I used to be that way. Maybe to some extent I still am. But everyone wants to talk big and bad until the stuff hits the fan. And then it's easy to see. Then it's easy to see what people are really made of. And now, that I understand why my grandpa always said you can't BS a BSer. Because he had been through so much, he had dealt with so much, he had BS so much in his life that he could spot it a mile away. Just like we can spot posers a mile away. Like we know, because we've been through it. right? Experience is the greatest teacher. Next thought is, are we calm and full of confidence, or are we angry and full of worry? Man, for my, till I was probably 17 or 18, I was full of anger and worry. I did a good job of faking it and acting like I had it together and I was cool, but there was a lot of anger under there, a lot of anger towards my father, a lot of anger towards circumstances that I was in, towards what was going on at my home, and a lot of worry about would I end up just like my dad, and that worry carried over into my late 20s. That fear and that worry of would I end up like my dad, especially with some of the choices that I made that I've shared on this page, that only reinforced that worry that I was going to be like my dad. But I had like anything in life, I had the choice. And I thank God that I was able to, through the help of some other people, be able to identify that and then make the choice and say, hey, I'm heading down that path, but I can make a correction and go down another path that doesn't lead to me becoming like my dad, in that aspect. And you know what? Now that I'm older, I definitely say I'm a lot more calmer and laid back. I don't get rattled as easy. And the only reason I don't get rattled as easy is because I've been through so much crazy stuff. If I hadn't been through so much crazy stuff, I wouldn't have the level of patience that I have. I wouldn't have, they talk about emotional intelligence. I wouldn't have the emotional intelligence I have. It's not because I'm special. It's just because I've been through so many hard things. Like, that's what these hard things do. And, like, only God knows why, what the buildup is for all of that. I mean, I'm sure it's coming. I don't know what it is. But I'm going to need that stuff for whatever it is. Because it ain't a matter of if, it's only a matter of when. And I'd say that I am full of confidence. I'm not full of confidence in myself. Don't get me wrong. There's certain things that I believe and I know that are true about myself. But my real confidence is in God, because you can't go through all the stuff that I've been through and have things work the way that they work, and me not have the confidence that I have in God. It's not 38 years. I don't even know how many days that is. I did the math a couple weeks ago. I want to say it's like in the 17,000s or whatever, but for 38 years, every day I've had clothes on my back, I've had a roof over my head, I've had food to eat. So when bad times come, I know I'm going to get through it, because I've already gotten through 38 years of it. Next thought. It's easy to be kind to others when everything is going our way. Oh, I need to hear that. I don't know about you, but I mean, that's just so true, right? When we're getting what we want, when life is good, like we're skipping and dancing along and things are easy, we can be real kind and nice to other people. But what are we like when things are hard? What are we like when we don't get what we want? When things don't go our way? When we get bad news? Are we still nice and kind to people, especially the ones closest to us? Or do we get nasty and short? And I'm as guilty as anyone of that. As guilty as anyone. So that's a good reminder for me. So the next one is, can we still be kind to others when they are treating us unfairly? Oh. This is probably the toughest one. Yeah, I'll cut your pizza in a minute, honey. Can we still be kind to others when they are treating us unfairly? You know, we talk this big Christian game, right? So are we going to walk that Christian game? I'm not asking for an answer from you. It's a rhetorical question to you and to myself. So just a thought for you there. And then final reminder, and we'll be done for tonight. You know, our struggles are opportunities for growth. There's a lesson in every single one of them. If we're willing to look for that lesson and we're willing to be open to that opportunity. So, get you a sneak peek at next week. So that's tonight's Sunday sermon. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Yeah, Charles, that is the most difficult for sure. Every man, it is. That's all I'm going to say. So I appreciate you guys tuning into this. If you need anything, you know how to get a hold of me. I'm here for you however I can help, whether it's just praying for you or listening to you so you can get something off your chest. We all need that person we can go to. It's not going to judge us. It's not going to condemn us. That's just going to listen to what we have to say and maybe give some open feedback if we give them permission. So I'll see you guys tomorrow for My Life Monday. Love you guys. Have a good night.